All right, so we are recording so that anybody who can't join us has the opportunity to touch base with us later on. And so I just kind of wanted to touch base, say hi. I'm glad to see so many lovely faces and people that I haven't seen for a while, so this is a good thing. And I don't have a huge agenda for today, so I won't take up, too much time unless we have a lot to talk about, and then I'm happy to stay with you all for an hour or so. And then just open it up to any questions, comments, concerns, anything we have going on. First, I just want to say that the group of facilitators and facilitators in training that we are, or the facilitators in training that we just worked with, they prompted me, and Lauren can giggle and chuckle over this, and she made fun of me for it. They prompted me to break a 3-year social media ban, completely voluntary. I'm not a huge fan of social media, and it's just a personal thing. I have other things in my life going on. I don't have the ability to keep track of social media, but this group prompted me to break my 3-year ban and post something on Facebook in our Facebook group, our facilitators group. I hope you all have joined that. If you have not already, please do so. We just certified 10 facilitators courses, at least 1 or 2 other facilitators that are like this close to finishing up all of their stuff. So they prompted that ban, and that ban was lifted, and so now I actually have to get on and check in with folks on a regular basis, which is just really exciting for me. So one of the classes that we have registered is Piston. Yep. And so I didn't know if is everybody already on the Facebook page?
No.
Damn, I'm kidding.
So sorry.
I'm kidding, it's fine. But if you haven't already and you need the link, let me know, and we'll be happy to get you that link. It came out in an email about a week or 2 ago, but I'm happy to send out the link again if folks need that. So far, it's been a really great way for folks to connect. I was just on there for a little while earlier this morning, and Margarita, one of our facilitators who just finished and has already registered a course. Actually, Margarita has registered 2 courses already. Margarita is in Portugal, and she's translating everything into Portuguese. I'm looking at my notes over here. She has a course starting on September 19th that is already full.
Awesome.
15 she limited it to 15 because it's just her. It's already full, so she's opened up a second course that starts in October, and she already has folks registered for that. So this is really very exciting for me. It's really very exciting stuff, and being able to see all of you going out and doing these things is just really awesome.
Hey Jennifer, can you go check and see if there's anybody in the waiting room?
I opened it up so that they wouldn't get put in the waiting room. They would just automatically come in.
Okay, I'll answer her. Go ahead. Merida's in a waiting room. Let me send her the other link.
Okay, yeah.
She probably got the wrong link.
All right. Thank you, Rebecca.
Sure, happily.
So that was one of the things on the agenda, was the Facebook group, to see what you all have. If you've been able to log in and see that and see the courses. Susan has a course registered. She's starting next week, July 16th. She's got her course starting, or at least that was her plan. So hopefully she's got all of the information that she's ready for that. And let's see. And Teresa has a course in Tucson that is starting, and then we've got a couple more in the pipeline. So anything on the courses that we have being offered? Sorry, I'm looking at all of my different notes. The courses that we have being offered, or the Facebook page, or how we can use that to connect with each other? It's a quiet group. That's fine. I can be quiet. I can be quiet. It doesn't happen often, but I can. Something else that was in our Facebook group this morning that really kind of, if you need CEs, Margarita posted a video in the Facebook group that it's actually a beer commercial, but the way it's done is all about common humanity. So if you haven't had a chance to take a look at that yet, please do so. And there's some other information that I haven't even finished going through and being able to check that out yet. So there's some really neat stuff in there, and it's a great place for folks to ask questions, to share ideas, to post things that are fun or interesting that might be relevant for them or for all of you. So if you haven't had a chance yet, definitely go in and check that out. The other thing that was on my agenda for July, August, and September, because we're trying to make sure that we get all of our different time zones represented. So for what I would consider the summer quarter, July, August, and September, our meetings are going to be at 4 o'clock Eastern time. So our next meeting is on August 12th, and hopefully I'll have the link and the agenda to you by the 7th. I was out of town, so I apologize if that didn't come out until today. I was out of town at my parents' and no technology. They have no internet, they have no cable, they live on top of a mountain, cell phone reception is questionable, and I was in heaven. It was absolutely wonderful. My children had no technology, which was, we could tap into the neighbors if we had a strong enough signal. So every once in a while they would tap into the neighbors to get some music on their devices, but otherwise it was a beautiful thing. So next meeting, August 12th, and hopefully I'll have that information to you by the 7th. And then we will change the time again. I'm trying to keep it to at least 3 months, so there's some consistency, but we are trying to get all of our time zones represented. And we have folks in New Zealand and in Australia that for them to be able to join us, 4 p.m. Eastern is like 6 or 7 a.m. their time. So we're trying to make sure that we can get everybody together in one place at the same time. And that's a bit of a challenge, as you can imagine. Let's see. If you haven't seen it, the facilitator guide has been updated and posted to the facilitator materials page. And that is, as some of you requested, and for those of you who requested that, thank you, because that was something that when I saw the binder for the first time, I thought this is not how my brain works. So for those of you whose brains function the same way mine do, yes. We have been able to restructure the facilitator manual so that all of the introductory material is at the beginning. And then each of the skills is in its own section. So when you open up to skill 3, emotional awareness, you can pull all that information out, take it with you, or do whatever you need to do with it so that it's all in one place and you're not flipping back and forth between multiple pages in your binder. And because I have not printed the new version yet, I'm still doing that with my old version. So you should see the tabs I have all over the place with CPs and critical insight it's not pretty. But we've updated the manual and I'm really excited about that. So would love feedback from all of you when you get a chance to go through the manual. Even still, what's working, what's not working, so that you've got, especially those of you who are going to be offering courses, when you take your manual with you and you take your binder with you, what does it look like and how does that function for you? Because we all do function differently, it might, you might have to tweak it a little bit for you, but on the whole, does that work better than the way it was structured initially? Got a thumbs up. Got a thumbs up from Rebecca. Hey, Barbara, is that a thumbs up or do you got a question?
It's both.
Okay.
Is the glossary in there and where is it located? And then I have another suggestion.
You know what? That's a good question. I just pulled it up this morning, so I would have to go and look. I will write myself a note for glossary. It should be. And my guess is either at the front or the back, but I will double check. And what's your next question?
You know what would be really useful if you have some spare time, right? It's a kind of a drawing or diagram of what the skill is and what the components are. Like most of them have 3 components, and for somebody who's an intuitive learner, it would be good to see that in a graph, because I don't always retain that intuitively.
Okay.
Suggestion.
Well, no, I'm giggling because if I'm understanding you correctly, Rebecca and I were working on that. I don't know what we were calling it, but I did that. I put CIT in the middle, and it's not linear because even though it does flow in a linear fashion, we were trying to take it so that you've got CIT in the middle, and then skill 1 is calming the body and mind, and calming the body and mind has tracking, resourcing, and grounding. And so we were trying to put all of that in some kind of a diagram. I don't even know what we called it. Did we have a name for it, Rebecca?
Well, I was calling it a mind map.
Okay.
So kind of a mind map thing.
All right. So yes, we're actually working on something like that. Michael's, it wasn't a concern. His suggestion was, because I had it just in bubbles, like CIT in the middle and then all the skills around it. And his suggestion was it's more linear because they flow skill 1 to skill 2 to skill 3. But I wanted the visual representation for those who think visually. So we're working on something like that. So that's why I was giggling when you said that, because we're working on it, because we realize we have multiple people with multiple learning styles and the way they take in information. Even Rebecca and I are very different, and Rebecca and I work really well together and have for years, but Rebecca and I have very different takes on things. And so the way she'll look at something and the way I look at something is different. And so sharing that, Barbara, that's proof that we need to shift things so that we can make sure that everybody can get what they need from the materials. Thank you. Anything else manual? We're going to move into some other conversation later, but anything else from the manual that you want to look at, share, and I'll get the glossary for you.
Jennifer, it would be helpful if you could put the link to the manual in the chat box.
Okay. I'll do that for you as soon as I can find. I freak out a friend of mine because I have so much open on my computer.
Yeah.
She's like, you make me nervous with all the stuff that you have open. So there you go. That is the facilitator guide, right? That's what you wanted, right, Marilyn?
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Yep, that's the one.
And Jennifer, I don't know if you have Compassionate Las Vegas down, or is that something that you want me to put down in this list?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I've not been on one of these calls before, so I'm in limbo here, but I'll do that.
Yes, please. I don't have that listed as a course for us yet, as a new course. I don't have that listed for us.
Okay. I think you're going to be there from what I understand.
Well, Rebecca will definitely be there, and then either
Okay.
Michael or I will be tag teaming with her. So yes.
So, and I don't know if you want or already have the one in India down.
Which one in India?
The one, the one that I'm doing with Tom in Delhi.
I don't have that. I don't have that listed as a course yet either.
Okay.
So for those of you who might be confused, so Compassionate Las Vegas is hosting a 3-day intensive. For those of you who were in San Antonio last year, it'll be very similar. So we're having a regional training in Las Vegas, Nevada in the US in August 18, 19, 20. And Rebecca, who's one of our two facilitators, and Michael or I will be there. We've also got some folks that are local to the area that are going to be joining us as well and helping to facilitate. Well, we have Charlie and Connolly Barker from Texas who are going to be joining us, and Sandy Hart, who's finished up her facilitator training, is moved to Las Vegas, so she'll be joining us because she's local and she'll be there to help facilitate some of the material as well. And then if you're not aware, we have signed CSITES, the Center for Compassion, Integrity, and Secular Ethics, has signed a partnership agreement with UNESCO's Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development. That was just signed, and the agreement is en route back to India. And so we're really excited about that. That is a year-long agreement, and we will be, Michael and I are currently facilitating a course for the MGIEP staff and some of their colleagues in the area. We've got folks from Pakistan, Jordan, Tanzania, South Africa, India, and Nepal on the call with us. Every Monday, we're doing it a modified version. So we're doing Mondays and Thursdays with that group. So we met with them at 8 o'clock this morning, and we'll meet again on Thursday morning. And we are to skill 9 already. We're almost finished. We've got just systems left to go with that group. And then Marilyn and Tom will be facilitating a group in advance of the World Youth Conference in India. They'll be facilitating a group of youth. And now the definition of youth is a little bit
Up to 35.
more liberal than I would use. They'll be facilitating, and it'll be a combination of online and in person. So they're going to do the first 6 skills online with that group, and then they'll do the last in person in India. So we're really excited about that. And then Michael and I will be going to India to do a facilitator training for the folks that we're finishing up our course with now. They're going to be doing a facilitator training. We're going to be doing facilitator training with them in September. So we've got lots of really cool stuff happening all over the place with Compassion and Integrity. So really excited about that. Thanks for those 2 reminders, Marilyn. What else am I missing? I've just lost myself, my agenda. What else am I missing from all of you? Barbara?
Yeah, Jennifer, is there an outline for when when you do these intensive? Is there an outline for when you only have 3 days? Or is there a priority for what you try to get into 3 days? Or are there some outlines somewhere we can look at? Or are those resources available?
I'm gonna ask Marilyn, Pam, and Merida to chime in on that, having participated in a 3-day and then having done their facilitator training in the normal format. I'm going to ask them to chime in on that. And then I'll add my 2 cents if they are willing. I don't want to put anybody on the spot. But if they're willing,
yeah, and I'll just qualify that with, this is a retreat. It's a women's retreat. That's going to be Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. So I'm just curious as to what people are building into those short ones.
I don't think this was any shorter. The training that we went through in San Antonio, it was 3, maybe 8-hour days with lunch only. So the full 20 hours was covered.
Yep.
Just more intensely and compacted. Is that not correct?
no,
Yeah.
you got it.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And I think that one of the, an alternative to it would be to do maybe 6 or 7 skills and then finish up online to allow just a little bit more thinking time and reflective time. That's, I think, an alternative. But obviously, we'll see again in Las Vegas and what happens and how people react to it. I think it was really very exciting, but then coming right back, and Pam and Merida, you could kind of piggyback on this. I thought it was real helpful to start from the beginning and do it all over again.
Yes.
Yeah, it was helpful to start all over again because we got a bit more in depth with it. But I also thought that being present was very useful.
Oh yeah.
I'm finding the online is quite overwhelming in the sense that you're not actually with the people, so you can't sense them with the other senses. So I found that I did learn a lot. I find that it's not at all that different. The what we did learn was what I always go back, my memory always goes back to San Antonio. Oh, that's when we stood up and stood in a line. No?
Yeah, yeah.
And there's things we can't really do here. So it has its advantages and its disadvantages, I suppose. And here I'm being asked to make it even briefer and shorter, if ever. And I'm kind of like stamping my foot and saying, no, it has to be the 10 sessions. But people here, because Monterey especially is such a fast city, things happen constantly. It's always on the move. So they kind of want things over as fast as possible. But I think it's their chance also to slow down. So.
And I would agree with what all of those ladies have shared, is that we didn't cut anything out, Barbara. We definitely covered all of the material. We did it in what we jokingly refer to as perhaps not a very compassionate manner, because we didn't allow for the reflective time and the ability to practice, you know, from week to week, the ability to practice. And I'll share this because it was shared with us this morning. The group that we are working with from India and that part of the world, they did not meet with us. We met on July 1st, but we did not meet on July 4th because the US was observing our holiday. And so they had a full week between sessions, and almost to a single person, they commented that having that extra time between sessions was helpful, that they got to get more in depth with their practice. Yeah. They got to appreciate it at a different level. So that was something that really stuck with me, because we do these different formats. And you know, the tried and true still seems to be the most efficient or effective, which is to have the week session. But then as Marilyn and Pam and Merida have shared, they came right out of their training and almost immediately went into the facilitator training. So then they were able to go from week to week to week and have that additional time. So, and I agree with Merida wholeheartedly. I love the online format because you get to meet people from all over the world, and I love that. And it is, I don't want to say it's easy, but we have been able to build a community in the online format, which I was a little skeptical about from the start. But because I like to be able to see people, I like to be able to you know, see body language and read expressions and be able to get the feel of the room. You know, as an educator, getting the feel and the vibe of the room is extremely important. I mean, I love the in-person opportunities and being able to engage people face to face. But we have been able to create an online community that I was a little skeptical about from the start. But the individuals are still connecting with each other. They're still maintaining relationships with each other from these online communities, which is pretty awesome to see. So if you want me to sit down and try to come up with a plan for you, Barbara, I'd be happy to do so, to do all that information.
Yeah, we maybe should do that. I think what I'm hearing is the 10 skills are really important, and the person that owns this house, she just bought this house and she's making a community center out of it, and so she's doing this retreat. It's a homogenous group already. So what we have talked about is maybe after the initial training that we would maybe do like compassion circles where we have a weekly deepening kind of thing. So that's all in discussion at this point. So nothing's written in stone, but I want to make sure that I cover what you feel is really important to cover.
Okay. Yep.
So thanks for any suggestions. That's great.
Yep. Other thoughts, comments, questions about any of the formats, anything like that? For those of you who are planning courses, do you have any questions you want to pick brains about?
I'll try to speak while my people are running in and out. Oh, serenity now, serenity now. So you and I had spoken about the online training. I know that we spoke about that offline, but I didn't know if there was any update with that.
Not yet. We're hoping to have, so what we're doing right now is we're training a group of facilitators to help facilitate online. so that Michael and I aren't always tapped into having to do every course we have online. So there's a group of folks, many of whom who already completed their facilitator training, that are in the process of learning the technology behind facilitating online. So for those who have been in the online course or in an online program, the technology, the Zoom technology, the online learning platform that we use through the Charter for Compassion's Continuing Charter Education Institute. So all of those things, we're trying to teach a group of folks to do that technology, so that if Michael and I aren't available, there's still somebody who knows the information and the technology that can facilitate a course, and potentially facilitate at times that Michael and I are not available, evenings, weekends, things like that, because we have different time zones. Different time zones can be facilitated at different times. So we've got a group of folks that we're doing that with now, and then we also have a group of folks that are interested in doing that, learning the technology behind all of that so that they can help to facilitate online. But we don't have a second cohort yet set up that they would be the shadows or the behind the scenes folks to be able to do that. Tell Hollis I said hi, Rebecca. So I don't know if that answers your question, Lauren.
Yes, I was just curious if there was some sort of formal thing that we had to do to present ourselves as the next cohort, or how that was lining up.
Just let Michael and I know. And I already have you on the list, so.
Okay.
Yeah. So our new, I was gonna say, I'm just gonna do it. Our new addition is Hollis. Hollis is Rebecca's grandson, and he's a very good friend of my two little girls. So if they come barging in because they hear me talking about him, they'll come barging in to say hi to him. So there's Lauren's Matt. Is that Maddie?
That's Mathis. Rowan, you want to say hi? All the people in the background. Okay, now go.
Oh, I love it. I know that's probably, whatever. I love it. I love the fact that we're all sitting in our homes, some of us with kids on summer break, and being able to still have these conversations. Susan, did you have a question earlier, or did I just imagine that?
Yeah, I unmuted myself and started talking. So yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm glad that you brought up the 3-day trainings, and I hadn't known about those, and I think that it might work well for me to do something more like a 6-week, 3-hour per week type of, or 3+ hours per week type of class here, rather than the 10-week. So I don't really have a question about that. I think I could organize it. I don't think it's a problem. Yeah, I didn't know about the training for online facilitating, because that would be a greater interest to me. I live in a really small community, really tiny, and so there are not a lot of people available for the classes here. So if I were to go online, I understand that I would be with you and Michael at first, supporting your efforts, and then I would hope to be able to eventually qualify to offer it online myself.
Okay.
Hi, Mahesh. I didn't see you there. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Yeah, we've got a couple of different formats that we have used in the past, or different groups have used. One is the traditional 10-week format, 2 hours a week for 10 weeks. One is the 3-day intensive that we just talked about a little bit. And then we had another group that piloted it's not an intensive, but it was 3 days that they did 3 Fridays. And so they did 3 or 4 skills the first Friday, and then the next Friday they did 3 or 4 skills, and then the next Friday they did 3 or 4 skills. So they were doing 3 or 4 skills a week, but they had a week in between to be able to use those skills, practice, do some reflective writing, do some of the contemplative practices. And they've had some success with that as well. So those are the formats that we currently have. Something that I have been toying around with the back of my mind is, and this was purely for some of my colleagues on campus at Life, because they may or may not be able to get out of the office for 2 hours. And so I was toying with the idea of 2 hours a week, but doing it as a lunch and learn type opportunity. So we would do and again, not all the skills lend themselves immediately to breaking up in this manner, but that's something I'm playing with, is doing the what's the word I'm looking for? The learning and doing the theory, for lack of a better word, the theory and here I'm going to share information with you. And then the second hour would be the hands-on practical critical insight activities, things like that. And doing it during a lunchtime so that folks wouldn't necessarily have to be gone from their offices for 2 hours straight, because some supervisors may or may not give them that time to be able to do so. So if you had it during the lunchtime, again, this was specifically geared towards my colleagues. If we're doing it at lunchtime from like 12 to 1 or from 1 to 2, twice a week, they're still getting that skill. All that week is all emotional awareness. And then the next week is all self-compassion. So breaking it down into smaller chunks, but doing it for either a longer period of time or doing it in that twice a week format. So there's lots of different ways that it can be done, but it's just a matter of playing with that to see what will work for your community, what will work for you, the population that you're trying to work with, because depending on the population you're attempting to work with, that may not work for them either. You know, they may want it, give me an entire day for 3 weeks and I'm good, versus let me sit down and have lunch with my colleagues, you know, twice a week and get the information I need. So lots of different options. Anything else? Other thoughts, comments, questions? I'm looking to see if there's anything on my... for those who, we talked about this in June, but for those who might have missed it, for Skill 5 for Common Humanity and Impartiality, we have pulled the information about the IAT, the Implicit Association Test, and we'll either be replacing it with new research or information, or as we did as a test run with our group from New Delhi, when we did Skill 5, we just pulled it out and had conversation. And it really, the conversation was very rich. So I don't know if we will continue to keep that out or if we will add the new information from the psych side of it. But just as a heads up, if you're facilitating, make sure that you go to the website for the most up-to-date PowerPoints, because some of those have been updated. And they do have a date next to them as to when they were updated, so that you can make sure that you have the right version of the PowerPoint. Because I saved mine to my computer so that I didn't always have to go back to the website. But now I need to go back and save the updated ones to my computer. So for the last couple of weeks, I've been just going right to the website so that I make sure I've got the right information when I need it. And then I think the last two things that I had were that we have not picked a time for our annual recertification call yet. Because so many folks are certified and are going to be getting recertified at various times of the year. It'll probably take place in either the fall or the winter. So for some of you, you might not have been certified for a full year before we ask you to do recertification, or you might be certified for more than a year by the time we get you to that process. But we're trying to make it so that we can, if we have to do two, but to make sure that we can get everybody, because again, the time zones that we have all over the place and are well represented across the world, which is good, except when you're trying to schedule everybody in the same place at the same time, which is a challenge. So we might do it 2 different times, and you can just pick the one that would be most appropriate for you. And then the last question that I had for you was, we've been getting some questions about creating subgroups for special populations. So folks who are interested in working with incarcerated individuals, or folks who are working with parents, or working in schools. And so just trying to gather some more interest to see if there are individuals or subpopulations that you think you might want to work with, so that there's more than one person. So if you've got a question, you've got your own little niche of folks that you can reach out to and say, hey, I know that you guys are working with, you know, incarcerated individuals at Lee Arundel State Prison. So can I pick your brains about this? Because I'm going to be going into a prison in the next couple of weeks, and I wanted to get some info. So I just didn't know if that was something there was an interest in, or there's, you know, desire to have conversations. So feel free to unmute and share. So I'd love to get some feedback.
I would love that.
Any particular subpopulation that you'd want to work with?
I love the mom, parent, caregiver area, and then the teacher, educator area,
Okay.
please. And thank you.
Mhm.
Jennifer, sorry, this is Anya, completely in the dark. Sorry, I'm not at home, and I'm in the very north now in Germany, approaching 11 p.m. It's getting dark. So I'd like to ask a question about the copyright. As I mentioned, I had this 45 minutes overview for, at the German-speaking Association of Positive Psychology, and some people asked if I could send the whole presentation, which obviously included mostly your slides. And since they didn't really attend a course, I wasn't sure how liberal you would be with it. I sent you an email, but I didn't repeat it because I thought I can ask it tonight. How do we deal with that? And I would have another question later on, but perhaps first talking about the copyright.
So I can share with you the APA version, because that's what I use, of as a citation, so that you can put that in the preface or whatever it is that you would share before you would share the presentation. I would also probably, and it's up to you. Michael has said share information. You know, somebody asked a question about being able to share the presentation. My thought was, don't share the entire presentation, share pieces of it, or if they wanted a specific image or slide, I'm happy to share that. Michael and I sometimes differ on what to share. I am happy to share anything and everything with folks, as long as there's proper citations and credit given where it's due. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, Anya.
Yeah, actually it does. I mean, obviously I put your copyright, but not at every slide. I said this is the course made by Brandon and Michael, and it's live. It's in copyright of Life Center, of Life University, etc. But not for every slide. But sharing just certain slides would probably the best thing, unless they take the whole course and eventually are facilitators. And I think for facilitators, the presentations are accessible anyway, isn't it? Yeah, obviously it is. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, I will deal with it like that. My next question would be, all the courses you give for UNESCO, and all of you, in fact, are you giving it for free, or is there any policy now? Did you discuss it newly or recently?
Sorry, hold on just a second, Anya. So what was I saying about kids, right? I heard the doorbell, I heard the dog, and it was just a matter of time before whoosh, my door flies open. Okay, so you asked a question. So the course that Michael and I are doing right now, the initial course Michael and I are doing with the folks from UNESCO, the center is absorbing the cost associated with that. So Michael and I are facilitating that for free. There's no cost associated with that for them, because we wanted them to really understand what it was they were asking us to do, before they agreed to the partnership agreement. So we just really wanted them to completely understand CIT before they signed on to use the CIT program and train facilitators. The future courses, there will be a cost associated with the course and the materials for the folks who are taking it. And that depends on whether or not the individuals will be absorbing the cost as an individual, or if the organization will fund that. For the courses that individuals are teaching, I will let them answer that. I believe they are charging for those courses, but I will let them answer that question. So if you could unmute and share for those of you who are offering a course.
The course that I'm offering at the Jung Center in Houston, we are charging, I think the same as you might be charging online, which is I think $25 a session or $250 for the 10 weeks. And then that amount will be shared between the venue and Compassionate Houston. But we also are letting people know that if they want to sign up but can't pay that we will, really try to make scholarships available to a number of them. So I think that's really where all I really know at this point.
All right, anybody else?
That sounds about right. So I'm just charging $100, and there will be some free slots open. And I'm also asking for donations to cover those, but if that doesn't happen.
I was going to say our training in Las Vegas is the same for the Charter for Compassion. It's a suggested fee of $250, but people can pay what they can if they can't meet the $250. We also encourage people who can pay a little more to do that so that we could augment the cost and actually to give facilitators, some revenue. The other thing for online is that the online platform, both for the Charter for Compassion as well as I'm sure for Life University, is quite costly. It's for us, it's $3,500 a year. So we have to meet those costs in some way.
Thank you very much, all of you.
Sure. You're welcome, Anya. Other thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, things that you want to...
Jennifer, can you hear me?
Hey, Sandy.
Oh my goodness, I've been trying to get through. I actually was the mystery caller. I was the 949 area, and now I'm calling in on my from the line. So I just want you to know I've been here, and a lot of my questions that I've been wanting to ask have been answered. But one of the things that I'd like to see happen in Las Vegas is continuing the CIT in a deeper dive in the 3 different verticals, not verticals, but from compassion for self, others, and systems. So that's just another idea of another format as a way of, keeping the energy going and the attention going and the compassion deepening. And there was something mentioned, I don't know who it was talking about circles for women, but that really excites me. So to answer your question about other areas of interest of women and girls, I've talked to Michael and I'm continuing the conversation with him about doing more CIT training for women and girls specifically. But one of the things we want to do in the women and girls sector at the Charter for Compassion is focus on circles. And it's already happening in India, in our India region. And we want to do it more on a global scale. So it would be, we're still working it out, but it would be so great. And perhaps we can even help host that with our Zoom platform, that we help to hold those circle conversations and as a way of staying connected, you know, and interconnected, way of our connecting our hoops or circles, if you will. I'd also like to suggest anytime you do hold a circle that you register it with the Millionth Circle, which is one of our partners and a major initiative on circle connections with circle principles. And it's just, you know, again, thinking beyond what happens in the room of a workshop.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It was Barbara who was talking about circles. So
Yeah.
Barbara, you want to touch base with Sandy if there's any more information or other information that you would want or need. Great resources.
I would love to connect with you, Barbara. My email is sandy, S-A-N-D-E, @charterforcompassion.org. Thanks. It feels good to be heard.
I had a question. We had at one point talked about the CE directory, so I didn't know if there was an update on that.
I have a handy dandy list on my wall here of some CEs that have been submitted that were really good or that have a really would be helpful for other folks to be able to wrap their brain around different ways to be able to do CEs. So I don't have, what that requires is somebody to put it all together and then sort of keep it updated. And I won't lie, that's not me for the next couple of weeks. So what I'm doing is to create the list of some examples. And then what I'm hoping to do is to pull them all together. I don't know how, because, you know, I don't speak technology. I don't know how to take them from our system and put them in a format that I can, you know, skill one and put them all together without copying and pasting into a Word document, which I'm really trying to avoid because not, you know, that's just a lot of work to copy and paste all those CEs into a Word document and to put them all somewhere else, because then I'm just, it seems like it's just creating more work than it is ease for people. So I'm trying to find the best system, and because, like I said, that's not an area of expertise for me, would love for some folks to be able to chime in with that. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have about 12 examples on my wall. So if there are folks that are struggling or want information about a specific CE, now some of them are duplicates. Like I think I have more than one for skill 2 because there were some really good ones. But if folks have a question about a specific skill, there are probably folks I can either point you to talk to one-on-one, or I can give you an example of one. But I don't know that I have all 10 skills yet represented. With what I would love is at least 2 examples for each of the 10 skills. Because there are some people that have videos, there are stories, there are metaphors, there are pictures, and because they're so different and they can be so different, I would like to find an array of examples to be able to share with folks. So that's where we are. It's just finding somebody to kind of take that on as a, I don't want to say a project, but, you know, even if it's just to get it up and running for us so that I can point people to, you know, here you go. And maybe that's where in the Facebook group, if there's folks that are looking for a specific skill, like I said, the video that Margarita posted, there's a couple of others that I haven't had a chance to look at, but I watched that one video because it was like 4 minutes long. That would be a great CE for skill 5. I mean, an absolute wonderful CE for impartiality and common humanity. So now all of you don't need them. You've all done those, but I'm just saying it's an opportunity for folks to be able to look at them and go, oh, that could be, it's a great video. I'd use it for activities. So that's where we are on that one. Other thoughts, comments, questions, concerns?
I just have a comment, Jennifer, to tell people. I watched this weekend Rocket Man, the film, and I don't know if people have seen it, but oh my gosh, talk about places to put compassion. It rocked my world. It was an amazing film. It's amazing portrayal. It's kind of a musical hybrid. I mean, it was delightful, but it was also very sad, and you could see the areas where compassion was exercised and where it wasn't. It was very stark.
Thank you.
What, what's the name of it, Barbara?
It's called Rocket Man. It's the biopic for Elton John.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah. There are a lot of, I don't get to movies very often, and if I do, it's usually a kids movie. And so the fact that there are adult movies out there, I look forward to seeing them someday.
I do think it's interesting, though. You know, we're sometimes feel like we're in this bubble of compassion and not sure if other people know what we're talking about or some of the things that we're thinking and feeling. But I do feel like I just sort of feel it bubbling up in different places. I literally last week was walking through Target, of course, and just heard two other people just having a conversation about compassion, and there's not enough compassion, and I almost wanted to go over to them and give them a hug. I was so happy. So that's my share.
Yep. Thanks, Lauren. Well, I think it's definitely a place. I mean, I'm hoping that these calls and then other opportunities for all of you to be able to connect with each other provide those opportunities to have some of those conversations, or when you're feeling like there is no compassion anywhere around you, to be able to reach out to somebody in this group or online to say, you know what, I'm not feeling it today, and I could use some love today from this group. So hopefully that will be an opportunity for all of you to engage in the future.
thank you, Jennifer. Wow, I love that. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, that certainly is my hope, because there's sometimes this, okay, so I've only been doing this work for about a year, but sometimes this work can be kind of lonely, because you're not really sure if folks understand what you're talking about. I have been trying for over a year to explain what I do to my family. And I've got a great family. I mean, my parents are great. My siblings are great. My brother-in-law, and they're great. But there are days when, because my sister and my brother, I've got engineers, I've got medical professionals, I've got, that's this side of the family, and then there's me. And I always laughed and said I was the black sheep of the family anyway, because my brother is an engineer, my sister was a bio major with a chemistry minor. She's, they've got the science math piece down, and then there's me. History, poli-sci, secondary ed, counseling, compassion, but I'm not really sure that they know what to do with me. So for the past year, I have been trying to explain to my family what it is I do for a living. And I've kind of given up using the language, and I just start talking about things that we do and activities that we do. And my two little ones happened to be on the line with me last week when we were doing the empathy line with our group from India. And so I wasn't really having the in-depth conversation with them about empathy and cognitive empathy and affective empathy, because they're 10 and 8. But we were talking about the examples and the empathy line, and they got it, especially my 10-year-old. She's like, well, that's not right. That's mean. And it's like, haha. So you're expressing, empathy. And so we could talk about that. And my mom was sharing a story about a colleague of hers who's got a child who's in rehab, and she was saying it was really hard, and she had to make this decision to leave her there, and you're in the best place. And of course, and then I'm using, well, Mom, she's demonstrating compassion. She is demonstrating compassion, because sometimes compassion doesn't mean you do what they want you to do. It's doing what's right for them. That wish, that motivation to alleviate their suffering, she can only do that by being where she is. And so instead of using the words that I would use when I would talk to all of you, I'm using different things and examples that they're sharing with me to turn it back on. So it's interesting, which is why I want all of us to have a place where we can do that, because we at least can speak a similar language. We're at least using some same words. So hopefully this is a place where folks feel comfortable and can do that and are willing to share and be vulnerable in some ways when you ask a question and have information to share. So. All right, I won't keep you longer. I have to run downstairs and feed my children before our 6 o'clock class. We have a 6 o'clock class tonight. So before that, I need to make sure that I can feed my kids who may or may not be in my house. They may have disappeared to the neighbors next door. So I have to go find them and feed them. But we have our next call on August 12th, and that will also be at 4 p.m. Eastern. So if you've got a calendar handy, you can put that on your calendar now, and I'll hopefully get the link out to you a couple of days in advance. And in the meantime, if you have any questions or you need anything, please feel free to send me an email. I am back in the office now and trying to get caught up on emails. You can also use the Facebook group and hopefully get some other feedback from folks there too.
Jennifer, Mahesh has a question for you. I've tried to answer it, but I probably didn't give him as good an answer as you, but I did throw you under the bus with me if he needs any help.
Okay.
He started doing an online class. And Hollis really wants to tell you hello.
Hey, Hollis. I miss you.
Optimus Prime, actually.
He's Optimus Prime, actually.
Well, have a wonderful evening, Optimus Prime.
Tell Hannah and Maddie hi.
Hi, Hannah and Maddie.
Oh, they miss you, bud. They miss you.
I have to go.
Okay. Have a great month. For those of you who I won't see for the next couple of weeks, for those of you who I will see in the next couple of weeks, I look forward to doing so. And of course, don't forget, you can always shoot me an email if you need anything. I'm, like I said, working through them. So have a wonderful week, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.